Hey everyone, thanks for joining. Of course, back here with Marc. Gonna do a second video here, a little deep dive into Norsemont. First things first, Marc, how are you?
I'm doing good.
Good,
Gold's up.
good.
I'm good.
Good, good. I know you mentioned you got your COVID shot. So
First
hopefully
shot.
yeah, first one, hopefully all safe. I know whatever, Canada's going through its craziness, Ontario back in lockdown, but onwards, Norsemont. Uh, look, let's say we just walked into an elevator, 20th floor, and I asked, tell me about Norsemont. What would you tell them?
Highly undervalued gold play with 5.5 million ounces in the ground, full infrastructure, at $200 million worth of infrastructure and 50 million worth of drilling, trading at a sad $50 million market cap, and we're fully financed. We've got over 7.5 million in the bank, so that's a good thing. But obviously, a lot of challenges that we faced with COVID. Speaking of COVID, but Chile has actually received, I think, a lot more shots than Canada. Not to poke any fun at our prime minister, I would never do anything like that publicly. But Chile's actually doing well with COVID, but they did do a shutdown for the month of April, I guess, from foreign visitors, because I guess they kind of want to stop COVID dead in their tracks, and they're worried about their industry and worried about the mining sector and whatnot. So,
Yeah.
which I think is a good thing in the long
Yeah.
term for everybody.
Oh, that's great. Crazy overview. Let's break that open a tiny bit. Let's assume, because I know there's people that have no idea, never heard of Norsemont. So break that down. You talk about the amount of money you guys have spent in drilling. Give people the what's happened in the past. Whatever, a couple of years if we want, and then where are
Sure.
things now, and then I guess we'll talk a little on what's to come.
Sure. So, I mean, we acquired the asset last year from Copac, which is the largest conglomerate out of Chile. And it's a former producer. It was the third largest gold producer in the late 80s, early 90s. And so there's a full fledged infrastructure that was paid for in the past, with power, water, camp, ADR effluent plants, and all the wonderful things that we would have had to pay for, backup power, generators, and everything. So we acquired it from at a good time from Copec, just before gold kind of took off, and I guess before COVID really became a problem for everybody. And I guess that helped kind of generate good demand for gold, and gold prices, I guess, sitting in the 1700 plus and peaked out at 2000. So we raised a little over 16 million for the company. And unfortunately, because of COVID, we haven't been able to drill the project last year, but we anticipate to be able to drill the project this year, which should be fun and exciting. The project already has 1,700 drill holes, which is incredible into itself. 135,000 meters previously drilled by Shell and Copec and other majors. We've got an existing resource, which we're waiting on a 43-101 resource estimate. We've got 4.1 million ounces of gold and 62 million ounces of silver, which is about 5.5 million ounces of gold equivalent. So we do have a good silver exposure for people that do like silver. We like to break that out and explain that to people because it's pretty nice size. Huge upside in the project. About 20% of the project's been explored. So there's another 80% that's underexplored as well. The project from the past was only drilled to about 70 or 80 meters. And typically an epithermal gold system like this typically is good for 200 to 300 meters. So we plan on drill testing at depth, and that's where we feel that we can multiply the resource at depth, and then obviously along strike with regards to the exploration side of things. So huge upside with a very large resource, and the beauty is we can fast track this to a production situation because it's a former producer, it's fully permitted. And the infrastructure is still there and in good shape because they ran it every 6 months. So we've got a mill and everything necessary to go back into a production situation. So good opportunity. We did raise quite a bit of money when gold was running pretty hard late last summer and last year. We did it, our last institutional round was at $1.60. Unfortunately, our stock's sitting now at about 55 cent range, which is kind of the lowest end of our range. But a lot of gold stocks been beat up, but we've got kind of extra beat up, and there's no technical reasons other than the fact that we had one big institution that was a large shareholder that exited the position for no reasons known to us. And the other thing is obviously, the retail public and investor public want to see us drilling. So I think this year will be a good year for us, good entry point for new investors. We will be getting drill permits on our existing drilling pads, as well as applying for a much larger EIS, environmental impact statement, for a larger number of pads that we plan on rolling out, and hopefully start the drilling on the project and really get the excitement going and get some numbers to the public.
Yeah.
That's kind of, there's a couple of different catalysts that we're expecting this year, so I think it'll be a good year.
Yeah, well, great. That's a fantastic update for anyone who hasn't heard the story. So, thanks for that. I guess you were already kind of alluding to it a little bit. Retail wants to see drilling, wants to see other stuff. Talk to me through more of the what's next. I hate to talk
Sure.
timelines, but maybe in general. Obviously, you mentioned kind of at the beginning, there's a lockdown for the remainder of April. Do you want to
Correct.
chat about what's to come and what you
Sure.
see as next steps?
Sure. I mean, we've got a world-class team already in place. We've got a world-class asset. The challenge has been to get active on the asset, which is what we've been dealing with for the last year. So we've deployed some capital and we've done some geophysical work. We've been doing sampling of the old pulps, the old core that we have in the shack, and that's in preparation of our 43-101 resource estimate. So we need to get the reports done. We're in the middle of doing some of the check assays on it. And so we're expecting to be able to get, subject to COVID, we believe that the borders of Chile will open up in May. We'll get Scott Wilson, our resource geologist, down to site and be able to put out a resource estimate. So that's one huge catalyst that the institutional market wants to see, retail wants to see. A 43-101 resource, it would upgrade the value of our resource and probably provide a better opportunity for analysts to put a better valuation on the company. Number two, we've got 39 drill pads that are already laid out that we're applying to drill, which would allow us to do about 100 drill holes. We already spoke to the local government authorities. They've been on site. They had a meeting with us, which, obviously we were a little nervous, but the meeting went really well. They're very supportive. They understand the game plan. We've outlined the plan that we have for the project. And they said, hey, we're ready to support you for getting your drilling permit and getting working on the project. So that could come in very short order here. I expect by next month, we'll have the drill permit for those 39 drill pads. We are doing a larger environmental impact study where we can lay out hundreds of drill pads, which would allow us to drill thousands of holes and basically essentially drill this thing to kingdom come till we stop, or drop dead of drilling. So like that's going on as well. And so that's another key, milestone. And then a third thing that we don't talk too much about, but we will soon enough, is we've been negotiating with several engineering firms because there's two dumps, there's two existing stockpiles on our project that are previous dumps that have been processed that contain north of a gram per ton gold. And I think each dump contains potentially 250,000 ounces of gold. So that's an additional 500,000 ounces. So part of our application is to be able to do sonic drilling, which would allow us to drill the dumps to determine what the grades are, what the content is, and get a better understanding. We're also doing some metallurgical work because the more money we put into the dumps and understanding them, the better value we can get. And we've been negotiating with 3 parties that are interested to put our dumps into production. So they would do a small scale production situation, which, 250,000 ounces would generate ballpark $250 million. And they would put up the CapEx needed. So it wouldn't impact our cap table or our share structure. And then they would get their CapEx back from cash flow. And then there would be a 50-50 split. So we would potentially see 125 million of cash flow coming to the company over the course of production on just one set of the dumps. There's two different sets. And so that's another strategy that we're going down because we think we can get this into a cash flow situation sooner than later. And that would attract a different type of investor, a longer term cash flow type investor, institutional investors, so we can capture a different audience. So we're also going down that path as well. So I think those are the three really big catalysts here. And obviously, we feel that gold is a good place to be and silver is a great place to be because of the economy and because of inflation and government debts and all the wonderful things that people already know about. So
Yeah. Well, a lot more happening than people might think, I guess. And a lot of good teasers to cover in more detail. You talk to, drilling pads, obviously these dumps, all these other stuff. So awesome. We'll definitely do some other videos. Um, Anything general about Norsemont you wanted to cover that we didn't?
Um, other than to say like the type of assets that, we actually, I did I had an analyst meeting yesterday, and it was quite funny because he's a smart guy, he's an engineer, and knows the asset, and they invested in our asset, so they're biased. Um, and he says, Mark, you realize that there's no more assets in the world like this. You can't get these brownfields advanced stage assets anymore at this price point where you own 100%. So he, and even Eric Sprott came out recently, I think this month, saying that gold in the ground should be worth $100 an ounce, which, I wish that was the case, because then I'd be able to say, hey, we're worth $550 million when we're worth 55 million. So, or less, actually, sorry, we're not even worth that. We're worth 26 million with 7 million in the bank. So really our valuation is really, when people say their valuation is undervalued, I would say, and this could be a knock on myself, which isn't smart, but the valuation of our company is really silly where we're trading at. Realistically, having the amount of ounces in the ground, the money in our bank, the share structure we have, the team we have, our stock should be trading at a couple of bucks, even if you said $50 an ounce, because we don't have a 43-101 resource. So, which would peg us at 200 million. So we're a little off from that. So I think there's huge upside, and there is no issues with the project. There's no issues with management. There's no issues with structure. We don't need money. So that's the other thing, is sometimes juniors get themselves in a situation where the market knows you're out of money, so you're going to finance cheap. So we're not going to do that. Even one of our board members, one of our high profile board members, Bill Katsouras, who's the chair of Wheaton River Precious Metals, he came in at $1.60 round saying this is a 10-20 bagger, which, we're at 50 cents right now. He's a smart guy who's done 25 billion in M&A. He's raised 4 billion. He ran and built up Endeavor Mining and a whole bunch of large cap mining companies. So people who know the asset, understand the value. So it's great opportunity. We seeded the deal at 40 cents with our inside team before we had the asset. We had to raise some money to get it. And we had subsequently done other financings, and the institutional smart money came in at $1.60. And they believe that there's a lot of upside to the asset too. So great opportunity for any new investors and anybody that bought in at the $2 plus range where we were trading at. It's obviously an opportunity to cost average down. If you're a believer in gold and a believer in silver, I don't think there's a better valued company on the market today with the amount of ounces and assets and infrastructure and team that we have.
Yeah, no, incredible. Hey, you talk about it a lot. I know, incredible. Obviously, where you guys are at, the opportunity, perhaps, obviously, do your own research and
Yeah.
all that kind of disclosure stuff. But obviously, hey, it is awesome. You guys have done it before. You're, experienced
We're
the
long-term
useful
guys
stuff.
too. Like these stocks do go through their ups and downs and their hiccups. And I can be blamed for raising money from an institutional holder that really hurt our market pretty badly and sold us down to $1 and then created a bit of a panic amongst retail and other investors. But my long-term guys know that we're committed. They understand the asset. And this is just a bump in the road along the way. it does take a couple of years to build a really good company, and definitely we're committed, and we think this is a great opportunity for anybody that didn't step into the market. This is a great entry point for anybody.
Yeah, awesome. Well, we'll leave it there.
Yeah,
Obviously, invite anyone who made it this far. If you've got questions about the project, about the industry, about gold, about silver, about Mark, drop it below. We'll definitely get a Q&A video coming up here soon. But Mark, thanks so much for joining. I think this was a
appreciate
good
it.
overview. Obviously, a lot of good potential upside, a lot of opportunity, a lot of things hopefully coming in the near term. But thanks so much for joining.
Yeah, appreciate your time.